got the cornfield calm, Midwest tone, but he's spitting facts like a dog with a bone. Lanky frame, fire-haired eyes on the case, breaking down the game in the darkest place. Sports scores to murder boards, Hoosier logic cuts like swords. From Friday lights to chalked out lines, this redhead's brain rewrites the lines inside the Hoosier mind, where the stories twist and stats unwind. He's a legend in flannel, mic in hand, digging deep where few can stand. From touchdowns to crime scenes raw, he's got the truth in every draw. Yeah, step in if you dare to find what's brewing inside the Hoosier mind. He'll talk Pacers, Colts, or Colts on trial. Hoosier humor with a devilish smile. He's that redhead sleuth with a box of clues. Takes your headline, breaks the news. With every stat and every scream, he's painting portraits in your stream. Don't blink, he'll tie it tight. From game night wins to murder flight. Inside the Hoosier mind, where the facts hit hard and the lines are blind. He's a ginger ninja, smooth and slick, cracking cases play by play quick. From courtrooms to the hardwood floor, he digs for more than just the score. Tune in and don't rewind, you're deep now inside the Hoosier mind.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome into Inside the Hoosier Mind, brought to you by Military Broadcast Radio, helping give veterans a voice. I am joined today by a special guest. His name is Chris Osborne. I forgot the S in there. He is a huge college football fan. He is a fan of the Dogs, the Georgia Bulldogs to be exact, and he is also a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. So we'll go ahead and bring Chris in. Chris, buddy, thank you for joining in, and shout out to your Jags. They, I know it's not the way they wanted the season to end, but hey, the future seems bright down there in Duval County, nonetheless.
Oh yeah, we went down fighting. That's all you can do.
Hey, and shout out to them, because even the commentators pointed out, they're like, honestly, whoever wins this game, more than likely going to probably be the AFC representative in the Super Bowl. So I mean, again, the potential is unlimited. The possibilities are there. Just gotta hopefully make sure it stays there, and you don't have another Doug Peterson, because Doug Peterson's first season went real well, and then just went immediately downhill from there.
Oh yeah.
But Chris is like myself. He is a huge college football fan. I wanted to bring him in for his perspective. And Chris, I don't know about you, but these college football playoffs with 12 teams, man, it's so good. You got to kind of love the storylines. You got room now for teams to be able to make mistakes. Apparently you don't even have to win your conference championship. And if you do, or if you don't, and you're named Alabama, you can still get in the playoffs magically enough through that. So it's been a fun time with this 12-team format.
Yeah, I mean, I try to pick every game and try to be right, but I think which two games I actually got right, and I did not get any of them other than the James Madison loss and the Tulane loss. Those are the two that I've gotten right. I've been wrong at every single game other than that. It's been a rough playoff for me.
I know. I feel the pain, because I can actually tell you what my regular season record is, and then what my postseason record is. Regular season record, I was 230 and 101, and that was just Power 4 versus Power 4 matchups. So I had about 66-67%, picking right. Yeah, playoff right now, I'm right at 500. I'm 7-7 for my picks.
That's way better than me, man.
Dude. And the only reason is because I was like, you know what? I keep betting against Miami, and they keep proving me wrong. I'm going to pick Miami. I'm going to pick IU. Oh, look at that. I got 2 free wins. Thank goodness it caught me back to 500, because I was sitting there at like 5-7. So, man. So it's been rough. But speaking of the playoffs, we got to talk about the two teams that are now in the national championship. We have Miami seems to be doing a Cinderella run, just like Ohio State did last year. Didn't compete for the ACC title. Everybody thought they were kind of dead in the water, that they weren't even going to make the playoffs. They make it in, and so far they have made the absolute best of it. The biggest question, though, Chris, is like Ohio State and the Cinderella story, can they finish with a fairy tale ending of hoisting a national title for the first time in 25 years? Did I lose him?
Are we back?
Yep, we're back. We're back.
Okay. What happened? I don't know. Let's go.
Okay. All right. So, what do you think about Miami? And are they going to be able to complete their fairy tale ending and be able to win a national title for the first time in 25 years?
I want them to. I do.
Hmm.
At the same time, I just don't think that they can. They might keep it at a 1 or 2 score game, but Indiana's rolling. It doesn't matter if you get pressure. It doesn't matter if you can stop the running game. They find absolute ways to destroy you down the field. And
Hmm.
it's not even always great route running or perfect pass. Sometimes it's just a miracle, and they get the miracles.
They do. They do. And it's funny too because Miami is doing true complementary football. They're doing, they're not creating a whole lot of, mistakes. They're not turning the ball over. We've seen, and this is actually perfect for you having been a Georgia fan and you got to see Carson Beck start for 2 seasons. You know, what's your thoughts now
Yeah.
with Carson Beck taking this Miami team to a national title game as compared to where he was when he was with you guys at Georgia?
Well, I think it's bittersweet because when we uh, did depart, we were all right. Well, we've got Gunner, so we're going to be fine.
Hmm.
And I'm not going to say the Gunner thing hasn't worked out, but of the two, Gunner's not playing for a title, and Carson Beck is. So it kind of makes you kind of wonder, was Carson Beck really the problem? I'm still going to say yes, but I'm only going to say it because of a system standpoint. He personally wasn't the problem. I just don't
Hmm.
think he fit what we needed at a quarterback position. So
Yeah.
I'm rooting for him, but it's a little bittersweet.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Joy. Nice to see you again. I haven't seen you for a while, but appreciate you turning back in, ma'am. Um, and let's see. Everyone from Indiana is awesome, but a little weird. Theory, you're too close to Illinois.
That's very true.
we
I
we are
used
a
to
little
live in
weird.
Illinois.
Did you really?
Oh yeah, I went to high school in Chicago.
Ah, okay, okay. So so here's my other thought though about the Carson Beck not working out at Alabama, like you said with the system. And again, you can tell me if you think I'm wrong. Do you think part of it is because you guys had that magical 2-year run of you had a dominating defense, you had offensive players out the wazoo everywhere too. Now that you have NIL, now that everybody is more or less on a, I'm not going to say an equal playing field because obviously some teams can pay more than others. So now it's definitely at an imbalance, just like it was before. But do you think because now it's more difficult for Georgia to maybe get more of those offensive style of players because it's not necessarily Georgia's bread and butter. Like when you think Georgia to me, I think old school ground and pound, great running backs, solid dominant defenses. I don't really think a lot of times of like, oh man, great quarterbacks come out of Georgia, or like, man, great wide receivers come out of Georgia. Now, don't get it twisted. AJ Green, absolutely solid. George Pickens had a career phenomenal year this year. So, I mean, they've got great players coming out of Georgia. Don't get it twisted. But do you think maybe that plays into effect now of, Georgia's not exactly the team anymore. They're still a top team, but they're not that team anymore, if that makes sense.
Right, and I usually use Matthew Stafford as the example because
Mm,
when he was at Georgia, he was terrible.
yeah.
I mean, his best play was to throw it a mile high and hope AJ Green caught it. And then he gets to the NFL, and everybody's like, "Well, Matt Stafford's amazing." Well, that's
Mhm,
because we don't really do the quarterback thing at Georgia. Our bread and butter, like you said, is the power running game.
mhm.
Setting up a quarterback that's a system quarterback like Jake Fromm
Yes.
to do third and short passing plays because that's what the playbook is built for. We
Yeah.
put Carson Beck at a disadvantage last year where he was having to win games. And for Georgia, if your quarterback has to win you games, you're not really doing the system right.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is interesting when I see that, and then when I think about it, I'm like it that to me is what I really wonder about Georgia and maybe why Beck didn't fit that well. But then he goes to Miami, where they've brought in a lot of guys via transfer portal. They've recruited well. I mean, Tony looks fantastic just as a 18-year-old
Yeah,
freshman for them. Um, so the sky's really the limit for what Miami will be able to do in the future. Um, if he stays after the national title game and whatnot. But on the other side,
right.
then we have IU. And living here in Indiana, I've been from Indiana. IU has never been good at football. They've never been known as a football school. It's always been a basketball school. And realistically, they haven't been good at basketball since like the 80s and 90s. Like that's kind of been about it. Like there's
Yeah,
been nothing really extravagant. And in just a couple of years, um, you have a football team that has gone from the losingest in college football history to now the most winning. And it's crazy what Coach Signetti has been able to do. Do you think Indiana could be that team that is able to lead? Coach Signetti and Fernando Mendoza can be those guys that lead Indiana to a 16-0 finish with a national title to boot.
I think they can do it. I think they've got the firepower to do just that. Um, Defensively, I feel like if this game is under 25 points, it heavily favors Miami.
Mm,
They have a very good they can make things difficult. It I just where to place my bet if I had to make one.
mm,
I think the upside for Miami is they have a great running game and they'll be able to move the ball down the field.
mhm,
Defensively, I have my doubts that they can really affect Indiana's offense enough to keep this a 27-24 kind of game.
mm. Well, and you do bring up a good point because I wondered, especially after the Ohio State game, the fact that, well, not the Ohio State, the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State, if it was 13-10. So that's crazy to see, Indiana held to that few of points with Ohio State's defense. And on the other side, too, look at how much Indiana was able to stifle Ohio State. They held Alabama to 3 points. Alabama couldn't do anything at all. And then did the exact same thing in Oregon. The only reason it was even closer with Oregon is because they, with hardly any time left, they're like, yeah, you could score a touchdown. It's fine. It's not going to do
Yeah,
anything, but you can
that
go
was
for it.
that was garbage points. Yeah,
Yeah. So it will be interesting to see where this ultimately ends up. And I might be a little biased because I'm living in and from Indiana. I'm taking the Hoosiers personally. Now again, every time I've done that, Miami has ultimately pulled out the victory. So maybe I
yeah,
just guaranteed Miami a win for the first time and the U can truly be back. But it's hard to deny what Coach Signetti has been able to do and the success and turnaround he's been able to have. And
right.
that does kind of lead into the next topic. And this is going to be kind of a two-part question for you, Chris. Of, I had mentioned Nick Saban retired, and we saw the final four teams, all of the coaches had some type of connection to Nick Saban, having been on his staff at some point at Alabama, all won national titles with him at Alabama. And even before that, you have Kirby Smart. He's won two national titles, was a part of Nick Saban's staff forever and ever and ever. And then, of course, other guys throughout college football, such as Lane Kiffin and whatnot. Who is truly the coach, though, that is carrying on Nick Saban's legacy?
If I'm looking at a team that is built like Alabama, I think that's Miami. They run the ball hard. They have a physical defense.
Mhm.
They make plays in space when they have to, but I mean, what they want to do is physically dominate you and win the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
If we're looking at a legacy standpoint of wins and future championships, I think that's Indiana all day. Is
Mhm.
Signetti is building with small blocks and he's
Yeah.
making big productions. When he starts getting 4 and 5 star players, let's see how he develops those. I mean, you might really then see what that tree looks like grown
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. The only one I would say I'd argue with Mario is I look at last year's Miami team and how they like stumbled at the very end and it kept them from being able to get in, which it truly is no fault of, well, it is and isn't a fault of their own for not being able to get in. But it is one of those that's like it was just a lot of dumb mistakes of this could have been prevented had they decided to go with something different or had they maybe gone with more of the safe play to protect the lead. I don't think it was Mario Cristobal. I think it might have been Manny Diaz. Whenever they were supposed to take a knee, they decided to hand it off. They fumbled, and the team ended up like running it back for a touchdown, if I remember correctly, and
I think
ultimately
that was
lost
Manny.
Miami the game. I think it was because I think that's what got him ultimately fired out.
I think
Um,
so. Yeah.
but that I don't disagree because Miami does kind of remind me of that because Miami does have the talent as far as the 4 and 5 stars, in the depth there. But here would be my other question though, because when you look at Signetti, he's doing this with no 5 stars, like very few 4 stars, and it's mostly 3 stars. So realistically, when you look at it, does the star system even matter at this point? Because and is this more of a this is what you can get with good coaching, good scheming, and good discipline as compared to maybe obviously the other teams will have a combination of that, but also part of it is just better talent per se.
I think the stars matter, but I think the star should change as you go along because once you
Mm,
get to school, that star doesn't mean much. You still got to earn it. But the portal
yeah.
and the NIL money has kind of changed how recruiting works. Back in the day, what you got was what you got. You might get a player once in a while, but that's circumstantial. You've got to get closer to family. But it
Mhm,
wasn't like you got out a 30 player transfer portal
mhm,
goodie bag and built a team like we do now. I mean, Texas Tech is that example. They bought a roster and won the Big 12 and looked like a really good football team.
mhm.
Um, those stars didn't matter when they went to college, but
Yeah,
their star changed as they played. So I think they do and don't matter. I think they should change yearly.
yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, and I know you and I were talking about it earlier with I was listening to the Joel Klatt podcast as I was working, and and Joyce said Texas Tech is lame.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't hate Texas Tech. I think really the only Texas school that I continue just to dislike, and maybe it's just because I'm going to LSU and I'm an LSU fan. It's Texas A&M. I don't know what it is. It's like every time it's like, oh, we're back, like we're gonna dominate, and every time they choke, every single time they choke, or they finish like 8-5. Now I really can't say a whole lot because they came into Tiger Stadium and absolutely dominated, and but it did lead to them getting Brian Kelly fired. So I do have to have a little bit of gratitude towards Tamu for getting BK
right.
fired. But still, um, but much to your point though, with NIL and these transfer portals and everything coming in, we have no idea what these rosters are going to look like. These rosters are going to change, and like you said, to me, the stars also need to change. Like to me, right now, stars kind of remind me similar to like NFL draft picks, because if you come out of high school and you're labeled as a 4 or 5 star, that is forever going to be on your title throughout the rest of college, whether you're an actual superstar in college or whether you didn't pan out the way that everybody expected you to. You're always going to have that label of, oh, he's a 4 or 5 star prospect coming out of college. Just like how
Yeah.
Zach Wilson will forever be considered a first round pick because he was taken like number 2 overall by the Jets. We all know that was a mistake,
Hmm.
but still that fact is there. And that leads me into the question for you that that I know you were kind of interested in talking about of now with NIL, guys can make more money now in college than they can if they go to the pros. And
Right.
you can make more money. It doesn't even have to necessarily be at one school. You can go to multiple schools and make a good amount of money. And so that led to the question of Ty Simpson has said that he's going to declare for the draft. However, the rumors are there is at least 3 schools that have reached out to him willing to pay a sum of about 6.5 million roughly. Supposedly the 3 schools, if I remember correctly, one is Tennessee, one I believe was Oregon, and the other one was Ole Miss, to get him to stay in college and be their starting quarterback at their teams, because it seems like his time is maybe done at Alabama. Who knows? But, you know, Joel Klatt also brought up the statistics of guys who, when they go to the NFL, what type of success do they have? And when you average it out from, I think it's like 2000 to currently, most of the guys who have had successful NFL careers started at least 30 games in college, had I think like 1,200 pass attempts, like 750 completions, and at least 50 touchdowns during their time as quarterbacks in the NFL or in college. And it does kind of make sense, because now when you look at guys like Bo Nix, came in and instantly had success there in Denver and is continuing to have success. You know, Jaden Daniels had a phenomenal rookie year last year. Caleb Williams is having a pretty good year. You know, Drake May, I know Drake May only started, I think, 2 years for North Carolina, but he had quite a bit of experience, as compared to when you look at some of these guys, they only have one, you know, maybe 1 year of experience, and they don't pan out as well. And obviously there's other cases that are, you know, exceptions to the rule, because, you know, JJ McCarthy started for 3 years. He looks awful as an NFL quarterback. And that's a little bit of bias, because I've never been high on JJ McCarthy. To me, I thought Stetson Bennett was going to be what JJ McCarthy is now. And Stetson at least got his team to 2 national titles and won both of them. I'm like,
Yeah.
If anybody should be that, I figured it would be Stetson. And when they said they were going to take JJ, I'm like, that's crazy. But okay, not my franchise, not my problem. But nonetheless, all this being said, with guys like Ty Simpson, who, especially in the back half of the season, not as successful, and even guys like Dante Moore, who, you know, Dante did have a good season. He just got beat by a really good Indiana team twice. Do you think it's going to be better for them to stay in college, get 1 more year of pretty lucrative money, more than what you're probably going to make on your rookie deal, unless you're like a top 10 pick, or, you know, should they forgo it, go ahead and go in the NFL while you potentially have the opportunity?
So I'm going to take Ty Simpson and use him as the example here. We're going to put
Mhm.
him as the one. So from what I read, I think it's Miami that offered 6.5 million.
You're right. I
I
think it
think
was Miami.
Tennessee and Ole Miss offered 4. I think Ole
Yeah.
Miss is still kind of teetering with, do they finally get the Chambliss thing? I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
But as far as Ty Simpson goes, I will say the one value that's hurting him right now is actually Carson Beck.
Yeah.
If Ty Simpson came out now, I think he's the 3rd best quarterback. If
Yeah.
Beck stays on this role, I think he makes a case for being the 3rd quarterback taken in the
Mhm.
draft. I know he's low on some boards, but he's not being asked to do much. But what he is being asked to do, he's executing, and execution is huge in the NFL. He has the frame for an NFL quarterback, and he has the arm strength.
Yeah.
So I think a new coach especially, is
Mhm.
going to take a chance on him. So if I'm looking at Ty Simpson being the 4th best quarterback coming out of college, if he doesn't do well at the combine, you might even find him lower than that.
Mhm.
And I've looked, and the 6.5 million he'd get in 1 year would be more money for the entire 4 years of a player taken after pick 100.
Yeah.
The 101st pick is 5.7 mil or something like that. So
Yeah.
we're talking about the incentive of coming back and making all that this year and having a better chance at a higher pick next year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost a no-brainer to me, because if you're the 4th or 5th quarterback taken, you're talking like early 2nd round, and even
Maybe.
that, it's only a little right. It's only a little more than
Mhm.
6.5 million for 4 years,
Yeah.
much less. So I think I'd stay if I was Simpson, but
Yeah.
every case is going to be different. You look at Beck. I think with his injury last year, if he went pro, he's looking at 5th or 6th round
Yeah.
draft pick.
Mhm.
Now I think personally, I think he's in the conversation for mid to late 1st round, which
Okay.
would be where Ty Simpson would have gone.
Right.
So I do see the NIL being a better option for Ty Simpson here.
Yeah. And I do wonder too, for a lot of the college athletes, if they don't look at that for other players. And one I remember in particular, if you look at Quinn Ewers, Quinn Ewers was supposed to be highly sought after he finished, his last year at Texas. He was still technically just a junior. So
Right.
he still had one more year of eligibility. He decided, I'm going to take my chance. I'm going to go in the draft. He doesn't get drafted till like the 7th round. He was supposed to be, I think he was supposed to be also offered about $6 or $7 million to come back and play for a contender. And I can't
Right.
remember. I think Ohio State might have been calling back to say, hey, why don't you come back here and play? And he would have potentially made more money. And who knows, maybe he increases his draft stock with how he plays. Now he's got, again, another talented team, another dominant offensive line, another defense. His biggest issue was always his health and staying healthy
Yeah.
more than anything. So I wonder if these quarterbacks don't look at guys like that and say, okay, I need to really evaluate, where do I think I'm going to go? And two, I wonder, do they look at the draft board? Because realistically, like you said, once you get up to about, pick 20, a lot of those teams really don't go for quarterbacks. They're usually trying to build, the rest of their team. Maybe they need like a wide receiver that could be like a 2, maybe a 1 even, depending on how deep the draft is, maybe an offensive lineman type of thing. And if you look at the current draft now, the Raiders need a quarterback. They're probably going to take Fernando Mendoza. The Jets always need a quarterback. I know you said Ty Simpson is probably the 3, so I'm assuming you're having Dante Moore come out of college, and he would be the 2nd, I'm guessing.
I think that Dante Moore has to come out. Dodging the Jets this year may make him the Jets guy next year. But
Maybe.
also with Dylan Raiola committing to Oregon, I think that kind of pushes him out the door anyway. Not that Dylan Raiola is better,
Yeah.
but for Oregon's future, I think that they're going to say, hey, we want you to stay, but we also want you to go pro because we've already committed millions to a guy that now has to start. And I want to go back to Quinn Ewers real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the best stat that you can look at for Quinn Ewers and what built him up, he's
Mm-hmm.
the guy that kept Arch Manning on the bench. I
Yes.
think that's the only real thing that made him a higher value looking to people on the outside. I don't think the NFL really ever valued him as a first round or second or third round pick. I think people saw, well, he must be better than Arch, but I don't think that was ever the case. I think Arch just wasn't ready.
Yeah, and that was kind of my thought too. And I know a lot of Texas fans, and I know for a lot of us, college football and NFL fans, we're like, no, let's see what this Manning has. Like, we haven't had a Manning in the
Yeah,
NFL now since Eli retired, and
right.
we're ready for that. Let's see it. So I do agree with that, and it does kind of make you wonder. And I think a lot of people questioned it more this year, just because of out of the gate how much Arch stumbled, because Arch had a
Yeah.
really rough year. Like, now when you look at it statistically, he truly didn't have a bad year. And funny enough, he statistically had the same year, like same statistics on par as his uncle, as his grandfather, and his other uncle in Peyton, Eli, and Archie. So he's right on top. He's right on par of being a Manning. It's like all of that makes perfect sense. I think and this is what I was worried about with him, and this is what I worry about for a lot of kids that are, blood related to any type of, Hall of Fame celebrity, as far as any type of sports athlete goes. The expectations are just crazy. And
Yeah.
it's like, this is Arch's true first year starting. It's his team. Texas had a lot of issues on their offensive line. Their wide receivers
Oh,
did
yeah.
not live up to par like we kind of expected him to. And honestly, to me, Texas's defense even took a little bit of a step back as compared to
Mhm.
where they were. So there was a lot of pieces there that didn't really happen. And I think too, is Texas kind of got back in their old ways of being a little bit too cocky for themselves of where they should
Yep.
be, and it ultimately ended up biting them in the butt. Um, but you are right though. It does lead to a lot of questions with Quinn of he kept Arch on the bench, and like you said, I don't feel like he truly ever got a real evaluation of, can he be a starting quarterback. Now he did ultimately get it with, Miami deciding, we're not going to start Tua Tagovailoa anymore. Yeah, you can have it, buddy.
Yeah.
Let's see what you got. Um,
Right.
so looking at some of the draft order right now, because this is just a mock draft of teams that are predicted to pick a quarterback, or I think are likely to pick a quarterback, you got Vegas. More likely, they're probably going to take Fernando Mendoza. Obviously, the Jets, like you said, if Dante Moore doesn't go now, he may go next year. But all honesty, too, you never know what happens. You look at Pittsburgh right now. Pittsburgh has a huge quarterback situation. Do they maybe get aggressive? Do they try to trade up, or honestly, do they tank with whoever their new head coach is going to be, with Mike Tomlin getting fired earlier today? And, do they try to get a guy for the future that they haven't had since Big Ben retired? I know they tried with Kenny Pickett. Didn't really seem to be the guy. Obviously, they tried with Fields. I think they should have given Fields a better shot, but that's just me personally. But, obviously that didn't work out so well for the Jets either. The third pick to me is most interesting because it's the Cardinals, because I feel like the Cardinals could go either way. This has them taking Arvell Reese out of Ohio State as the linebacker, but there's been a lot of questions of, should they keep Kyler because they paid him all the money, or do they trade him and move off of him, or what do they do with him? Like that to me is maybe a question mark destination. After that, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the Cardinals definitely move on. They're getting a new coach, and historically speaking, a new head coach wants a new quarterback. They want their own system to run. Unless you found the perfect head coach to coach Kyler, which I'm sorry, that Lincoln Riley's not coming to the NFL.
No.
He's going to be lucky to keep his job, but I just don't see them keeping Kyler. I think they eat the money and trade him. Maybe get like a third, fourth, or fifth round. I don't know what his value is. I don't even pay attention to him because he's not a factor to me in the NFL. But get what you can in a draft pick and go get a quarterback. I don't know that they can trade with the Jets to get Dante Moore. I think he would be a decent quarterback in the NFL with good receivers.
Yeah.
But I don't know that they can settle with number 3 quarterback. Let's just say that it's Carson Beck. I'm not sure that it is, but I don't know that I take Beck at number 3. I think it's a big drop off from your top 2. So there's a lot of variables.
Yeah, but you never know, because every year there's always at least 2 or 3 guys that, like you said, realistically, when you look at them, like, they're probably about second, third, maybe even fourth round type of guys. Maybe development. They can come into being a solid backup or whatnot, and everybody's like, nope, top 5 pick. I need a quarterback. Let's go.
Yeah, reaching.
Definitely a reach. After that, it would be the most Cleveland Browns thing ever for them to draft another quarterback at the number 6 overall pick. I doubt they do that. It would just be the most Cleveland Brown things to do. Be hilarious. Washington isn't. Now, Joy, if you're still watching, your Saints are at number 8. Do the Saints get a quarterback? Because don't be wrong, Tyler Shuck played okay. They definitely finished a lot better than where I thought that they were going to start, and maybe he is the guy for the future. But just looking at it from first glance, I'm like, I don't know. And then after that, you've got Miami. They would probably be next because they're supposed to take Mansour Lane from my LSU Tigers, unfortunately. Do they move on from Tua? And maybe even Tua's out there for one of these teams as far as, hey, why don't we bring this guy in? Same thing. He's a former first-round pick. He has had success at Miami. Is it a matter of coaching change or not? After that, really, you're not getting into another quarterback needy team. You have the Jets again from the Colts pick, maybe the Vikings at 18, but that's really, really a reach. And then funny enough, Pittsburgh at 21, it has them potentially drafting Ty Simpson if he's still available and on the board at 21. And if he declares for the draft, he would potentially go to Pittsburgh, which honestly, looking at it, I'd say that might be his best situation. Now, to me, their big question, it's been their offense. I've never been a huge fan of Arthur Smith. I hope they'd make a change at the OC position, but you at one point had George Pickens and DK both, and you decided, you know what, we're going to get rid of Pickens, we're going to keep DK, and we're just going to have one wide receiver. Now they do have Freiermuth. Freiermuth is solid. I'm not going to hate on him, but it's just crazy to me.
He's not a game changer.
No.
And something to keep in mind when you talk about tight ends, those are really quarterbacks' best friends.
Mhm.
and you've got guys like Kyle Pitts who may not be in Atlanta next year.
Correct.
Let's say they splurge, they bring in Kyle Pitts and get a guy like Ty Simpson, then DK Metcalf looks like a good choice. But
Correct.
I still can't see trading, young George Pickens who's coming into his own.
Mhm.
He's a good receiver. He's a
Yeah.
number one.
Mhm.
That strikes me as a personality trait that's got to
Mhm.
be a flaw to send him and keep Metcalf.
Yeah. Well, that's always been a question with Mike Tomlin too, has been, how he handles like diva type of personalities. Because obviously at one
Yeah.
point you had Big Ben, you had Le'Veon Bell, you had Antonio Brown. Um, who else did they have that was like a diva? Or maybe it was
Le'Veon
just
Bell. Oh, you said Bell. Yeah.
yeah, maybe it was just Bell and Brown both. It was like between both of them, it was like holy moly, yeah. The Steelers and Mike Tomlin has the patience of a saint apparently to deal with that. But they were also winning, which it's one of those. Okay, we can push a lot of this to the side
It
because the
hushes a lot of
wins help
problems.
do everything.
Yeah.
So it is interesting. And we'll move into our last topic because I do feel like this one is one of those that's kind of a deep conversation. We talked about the NIL. We talked about some of these players, they could potentially stay for their entire career, probably make just as much money as they would in the NFL, if not more, depending on where they go and what pick and position that they ended up landing at. But we've noticed with NIL, the SEC has now gone 3 years without even having a representative in the national title game. The last one to be in it and win it both is your Georgia Bulldogs. Absolutely crushed TCU. Um, you know, technically 3 years ago. I think they have it listed as four, but realistically it's three. And the Big Ten has had a representative now for the last three.
Yeah.
And it's funny because do you think now with NIL it truly has leveled the playing field? Because I know Nick Saban has gotten very, very defensive about this, and I always laugh that he's gotten this defensive about it. Is
Oh yeah.
that is that the SEC never paid their players? Alabama never paid anybody, and it's like, look, dude, even if you did at this point, are they really going to go after you and do anything against you? Probably not. Like, you're one of the best representatives for them. Obviously, the CFP still has a ton of respect for Alabama and the name that you've made. So, if you want to deny it to the day that you leave the earth, that's perfectly okay. That's fine. Realistically, we're kind of seeing it now as the NIL has made everything more spread out, and we don't have these, with maybe the exception of Indiana this year, we don't have these teams that are going undefeated, just absolutely dominating everybody that they play, like we did with Alabama for all of those years, like we did with Georgia for, honestly, even the last few years up until about the last three or so of the SEC is able to hog and really recruit and gather all of these guys, and they're just deep to no end.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give the Big Ten this. This is the third different team in 3 years
Yeah,
that made the appearance. It's not like it's all Ohio State or all Michigan,
right.
but also I'll give the nod to the ACC.
Yeah.
Miami's there because the portal and the NIL. They
Hmm.
brought in Carson Beck. They brought in several key positional players in the last 3 years that led up to this.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know what year it was, but that year that Jeremy Pruitt handed a giant bag of Big Macs to somebody. Oh, wait, no, that was a bag of cash.
Yeah.
Yeah. The SEC's always paid players.
Yeah.
I don't know why we can't talk about it now. It's legal now. So
Right.
I'm sure Alabama, Georgia, everyone's done it.
Yeah.
Um, Now it's just a situation where it's legal. So we can discuss how much money we paid that kid from eighth grade to be in our school at some year.
Hmm.
Um, but I think the NIL, what it did, if nothing else,
Hmm.
it may have leveled the playing field, but it gave opportunity to guys that are freelance football players, like
Yeah.
Sam Levitt. If he does go to LSU, which I don't think it's official, but I think it's
It
about to be official.
it is official.
It is official.
Yes.
He's going to end up making more money over these last 2 years than he's probably ever going to make in the NFL. And
Yep.
to me, that was the thing: is these kids are putting their bodies on the line, just like NFL players.
Mhm.
The only difference is the school was making all the money.
Yes,
The return was an education, but an education you can get without a scholarship. So
correct.
at least these guys are now getting money for their work.
Yeah. And realistically too, if we've seen anything over the last few years, you really don't even need the degree or the scholarship. You do
Yeah,
need to get an education, but that education doesn't necessarily have to equate to a degree with the amount of money that you can make, with the sponsorships, with the deals that you can make. Realistically, the only education you really need now is just investing. Because once you get that amount of money, it's keeping it is the big
yeah,
issue and the big thing that a lot of these guys need to realize because obviously we're starting to see kind of more and more now. A lot of these professional athletes, I think it was Adrian Peterson just recently was like, I don't have any money anymore. What do you mean you don't
yeah.
have any money? You were like the top running back for a majority of the 2000s. What do you mean you don't have any money anymore? Like
And the worst
it,
part is he can't even get a job somewhere because the situation, I mean, like on sports, broadcasting and stuff, nobody wants to hear him talk because of the situation with his kids.
yes. Yeah.
And that's kind of scary, but you
Yeah.
know,
It is.
it's not like Emmett Smith. I'm sure Emmett Smith's out of money too, but he's doing ads for people. He's on
Mhm.
commercials. Nobody's rushing to give Adrian Peterson a chance with their new umbrella commercial. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And it
So
does. And Joy brought up a good point with she said from the older generation, she thinks it's nuts with how college football is going. And I don't disagree. And I don't know how much you listen to Joel Klatt personally, Chris, but I thought his episode today was actually really good.
I try to
He
catch it. I just don't always get to.
he did a really good job. And Joy said she can't stand him, which is fair. I will say he did do a really good job to me earlier of breaking down part of the issues in college football and what needs to be fixed. And he's been a big proponent of paying the players, like you said, they're putting their bodies on the line, and realistically, they are treated just like NFL players are. It's like, hey, we have an expectation. We're trying to win a national championship for a lot of the teams that they're probably going to go to. They are pipelines to the NFL. If you go to Georgia, again, depending on what position you are, you're going to go to the NFL. Same with LSU, same with Bama, Ohio State, Michigan, etc. You're more than likely going to go to the NFL depending on what your position is and if you're successful or not. The other thing that he brought up is that realistically for some of these guys and especially the money is there needs to be set contracts, and instead of referring to them as student athletes, they need to be referred to as employees of the university. Because
Absolutely.
realistically, that's not that far off from what they are right now. It's you're getting paid by the university to represent it, and you're getting paid to go out and do a job, which for them, it's sports. And once you do that, it then opens up more doors and opportunities for more stability. Because then once you sign a guy, say you go out and you recruit a guy, and he's like, "Hey, I only want to play for you for 1 year." Okay, we'll tell you what, we'll pay you this amount of money, but we want to sign you for 2 years, and then you can have a negotiation, and it opens the door for that. And then, okay, now we know we have this guy locked in for 2 years. You don't have to be a head coach that now has to basically go recruit all of your players out of the transfer portal now and pay guys just for that season. And then, okay, what does my next season look like? Now I have to potentially rebuild my roster all over again. And he brought up the other good point of high school recruiting may honestly just be kind of a waste of time at this point anymore because you don't know how long that guy is going to stay there because you might
Yeah,
sign him initially and then he might be gone the year after that. You never know.
it's really just free agency for college.
It is. It is. And he brought up a good point that, for a lot of us who we watch college football for a long time and we like a lot of the older stuff, he said the problem is you have a new system now. You have everything new and you're trying to meld it around a lot of old archaic things that realistically they're not going to make a difference in stuff. Like you look at the college football calendar now of now you have, the transfer portal opening, before the national championship, deep into a playoff run. You have a head coach leaving his team in the midst of a playoff run to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And same with the signing date, signing days and whatnot. You have that right in the middle of the playoffs, to me, and he didn't mention this, but this was my personal idea. The schedule needs to be reformatted to where whenever they decide to do the national championship, the day after is when the transfer portal opens. It's when signing day happens, or you can even put signing day like 2 or 3 days after or before, whichever one. I would honestly say probably after. And that's when your coaches can also leave and interview and go for other jobs and whatnot. And I say that because if I'm a guy coming in, let's say I'm getting recruited by LSU for a wide receiver position. And it's like, okay, I'm coming out of high school. They haven't said I'm going to start. There's no guarantee I'm going to start. That's fine. But they go and they get this guy that's a sophomore out of the transfer portal. There's potential he stays there for 3 years. I may not even get to start until my sophomore or junior year because of, potentially guys ahead of me that have had opportunities to prove themselves. So why would I sign here? Why don't I sign somewhere else to where I'm going to potentially be able to play immediately and get the bag or get the chance to, go to the draft and whatnot?
Well,
That was, yeah.
I think it's something that should be addressed in the contracts is, okay, I'm signing with you.
Mhm,
Let's say you take uh, a $2 million contract and it's going to be for 2 years.
mhm,
Put it in the contract. I'm signing with you under the understanding you're not going to wake up tomorrow and go get my replacement.
correct.
Like, give me some kind of assurance that I'm signing with a team that
Mhm,
also has my best interest at heart.
right.
And when it comes to positions like linebacker and corner, you
Mhm,
can't do that. Wide receiver, there's multiple people on the
correct.
field at the same time. But for a quarterback,
Mhm,
for sometimes tight ends, running backs, those players, they expect the lion's share of everything when it comes to their offense. And if you sign a contract, you should be willing to, okay, I'm not going to go get another quarterback just
yeah,
because he's available, even if he's
yeah.
an upgrade. And
Mhm,
that hurts the team, but it really hurts the player if you do
mhm,
that because, like Austin Mack right now, he's the guy that's pushing Ty Simpson out at Alabama.
yeah, yep,
Um, that's a kid that came with Kalen DeBoer. Ty
mhm,
Simpson was already there,
yeah.
and
Well,
that's
and
kind of who's kicking him to the curb.
Well, and I would say too, much like Clapp brought up of if you have those contracts, then when I go into the portal, I already know what I'm looking for. Like you said, if I have a guy that's signed, like, okay, I've got this guy for 2 years, no matter what, we got him, we're good. Okay. I don't need
Right.
to necessarily look as deep for wide receivers. Like, I don't have to do that. Maybe I look more towards the high school recruitment part. And if I've got a sophomore now, maybe I look at, okay, who's going to be my incoming freshman to maybe be behind him. I don't have to go to the portal for that.
Right.
Whereas right now, you all but sometimes have to rebuild your roster just completely because you just
Yeah.
lost everybody. And okay, now who do I get from this place? How do I get them in? And the other thing that Clapp brought up that I thought was a good point was the fact that the spring games are also kind of old and outdated because realistically, yeah, spring games are nice because you can kind of see in pads one on one what your team has and whatnot. But that's another opportunity though for if I'm a guy that I come in and it's like, okay, I'm going to start, but then there's a guy that he just worked harder than I have, or he got bigger, or he got better, whatever the case may be, and he beats me out. Okay, well now I want to transfer someone else somewhere else because I don't want to have to deal with this. Now, luckily they kept it to just one transfer portal window, but still, that's something that I think needs to be thought about with that is, you know, when do these portals open? When is the opportunity for people to move open? When does it close, et cetera, et cetera? But it'll be a fun season. It'll be a fun time. It'll be interesting to see where people decide to ultimately end up doing things. And it's a big old RV mainly. Oh, I love that. I love that. I eventually, when I get my own house, I want to have a man cave that has all the tiger stuff. I've seen them on like TikTok where they've got like the entertainment center is all lit up. They've got all the Tigers logos, all the Tiger stuff. They have like smoke that comes out and whatnot. That's absolutely what I want to have in my man cave in the future. We're working on that. I'm gonna start looking at stuff to potentially buy for it now while I don't have a house payment and work on that. that's the eventual goal. I think Chris is having some technical difficulties, but I want to shout out to Chris for being able to join me for a little bit and get his insight. Appreciate it to Joy and everybody, and Veteran Trash Talk, who all came in to entertain, joke around, talk with us. Definitely appreciate the love and support. Thank you for everybody who's watching. And if you want to learn more, please check out Military Broadcast Radio and MBR. They have everything great as far as veteran hosts, all the different topics, life advice, everything you can possibly imagine and think of is here at MBR. There's a little QR code right there that you can scan. It'll take you to their website, teach you a little bit more, or you can find it on any of the social media right here, MB Radio or mbradio.us. And if you like what I had, you can check me out at Inside the Hoosier Mind at pretty much everything: TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. All of that is me. Definitely appreciate it. And oh, Joy got upgraded to a mod. Look at you, girl. Good for you. I will definitely check that out because I'm going to probably be exhausted from having done homework. So I'm going to need a break. But I appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will be back next week. We'll go a little bit more in depth on some of the national title preview. No, the national title will be over. We'll go over the national title game after that. And then we will also potentially have an NFL episode this week, but appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will see y'all later.
Life is like a duck. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. Here at Military Broadcast Radio, we're teaming up with our friends at Die Tired, the veteran-friendly music band spreading strength, resilience, and mental health awareness one shirt at a time.
And check this out. Their brand new shirts feature broadcast beaker right on the breast pocket.